After God takes Israel out of Egypt, this week's parasha Beshalach follows them on the next stage of their journey toward the land of their ancestors. But God does not lead them along the direct route. The straight path would have taken them through the territory of the Philistines, and encountering them so soon after leaving slavery might have frightened the people into running back to Egypt. Instead, God guides them on a longer route through the Sinai desert, eventually bringing them to the edge of the Red Sea. Meanwhile, Paro has a change of heart. Regretting the loss of his slaves, he gathers his army and chariots and races after the Israelites, overtaking them at the sea. With water behind them and Egypt bearing down from the front, the people cry out to Moshe, who turns to God. God instructs the nation to move forward into the sea and commands Moshe to split it so that they can cross. But how did the sea actually split? The Midrashim offer a range of supernatural, miraculous interpretations, but the straightforward reading of the Torah suggests something different. Rashbam explains that God uses natural forces as much as possible. As the verse states, God drove the sea back with a strong east wind all night, turning the sea into dry land. The waters were divided. A powerful wind blew the water aside, and because the wind was intensely cold, it froze the water in place. The Malbim adds that the wind not only pushed the water apart, but froze each side into towering walls of ice. Sforno notes that the same freezing wind hardened the seabed, turning it into permafrost, allowing the Israelites to walk through on what was essentially dry land. As the people entered the sea, the Egyptians charged in after them. The Torah tells us that the pillar of cloud and fire stood between the two camps, separating them. As the pillar moved with the Israelites, the heat of its fire began to melt the ice walls and soften the seabed. According to the Malbim, this is why the Egyptians' chariots became stuck in the mud. In their frantic attempts to free them, they pulled at the wheels until they tore off entirely. Rashi adds that God disoriented the Egyptians with a tremendous noise, and when ice suddenly meets intense heat, it can crack loudly. Two massive walls of ice melting at once would have produced a deafening, overwhelming sound. At daybreak, God instructs Moshe to stretch out his hand again so that the sea would return to its natural state. By then, the combined heat of the morning sun and the pillar of fire had weakened the ice walls to the point that they could no longer hold back the water. The sea collapsed, rushing back into place and drowning the Egyptian army. God used the laws of nature to perform his miracles. You might think that this diminishes God's power. After all, the Midrashim describes supernatural wonders, while this approach keeps everything within the natural realm. But using a rules-based system to achieve something that appears impossible does not lessen God's power. On the contrary, it highlights it. When someone can work entirely within the constraints of a system and still produce an outcome that defies expectation, that mastery within the system is often a greater display of power than breaking the system altogether. The miracle is not smaller. It is more subtle, more elegant, and ultimately more profound. By using the rules of nature to perform the miracle of splitting the Red Sea and bringing the children of Israel safely to the other side, God demonstrated something beyond what he had shown in Egypt. The 10 plagues revealed that he rules over nature. At the sea, he revealed that he is nature's complete master. Shabbat Shalom.